Hello everyone, we are finishing AFC today and we will finish with AFC West. Before we start, I would like to ask you if you like these videos, if you are enthusiastic about NFL as me, as you, as the next guy, please recommend this video, visit me on my other sites, whether it's TikTok, whether it's YouTube Shorts, whether it's X, or leave a like, leave a comment, everything helps. A lot is going down to put up this video, so it would be very much appreciated. In just a couple of days, there's a lot of draft content you don't want to miss, so be sure you are subscribed so you don't miss anything. We will be online during the draft night, posting video after every single pick, especially for first round, probably for second, for the third, we might be live with a stream, so don't hesitate to follow and be aware it's going to be so much fun. That being said, let's go and recap the free agency of the Las Vegas Raiders. So, who they lost? Nate Hobbs, Trevor Morick. Nate Hobbs kind of sucks because the amount of money that Green Bay needed to put up to sign him up was not huge. And it's not like you are swimming with like super talent in terms of your secondary. So to me, losing Nate Hobbs kind of sucks. Losing Trevor Morick sucks too, but much less given the amount of money that was needed to pay him up. To me, he is just not worth that much as a safety. I know he can be a Pro Bowl safety. I think that's in his future, but it's far from certain. And in terms of other guys, they lost Robert Spillane and Divine Diablo. Both of these guys, I feel like you are kind of okay losing, whilst Spillane, I thought he's going to be like a vital part of the defense under Pete Carroll. It seems like they have other plans. Like it was actually weird because like Pete Carroll, obviously defensive-minded head coach, is coming in and like several key players of the defense, whereas Nate Hobbs, Robert Spillane, and Trevor Morick, they're just gone. And it's like, okay, either there was something going on in the back scenes that those guys just didn't want it to be part of Las Vegas Raiders, or it's like, yeah, Pete has a really different direction how he wants to do this defense. So we will see. I'm excited. I trust Pete, though his like last 2 years with the Seahawks defense was not really good. So let's hope he will be able to do a better job here with the Raiders defense. In terms of other guys that currently are either unsigned or weren't signed when I was doing this presentation and was like kind of not the big losses. Yeah, it's these three veterans in Andre James, Gardner Minshew, and Marcus Epps. With Minshew, it was kind of clear that when they signed or traded for Geno Smith, they don't need a paid veteran to be his backup. Marcus Epps, I mean, his best days are probably over. The same for Andre James. They had a successful draft last year. So yeah, both of these, all of these three departures kind of make sense. In terms of what happened in terms of incomes, well, it's not an income, but they've managed to re-sign Max Crosby, for a salary that I feel like kind of matches what he is, how good he is in terms of current salary cap, but given that this extension is prolonged like 3 years down the line, it ends in 2029 actually, I feel like it's actually a value deal for this team. It also absolutely tells you that this team ain't in a rebuild. They brought Pete Carroll not only to reestablish the culture here, but to actually be competitive. And for that, resigning your best player, clearly your best player, and I would say face of this franchise, is absolutely top move. Isaiah Polamalu, to me, kind of inconsequential signing. Would I rather have him or Marcus Epps? I think Marcus Epps is a better player. Isaiah has more potential, so yeah, I'm absolutely okay with that. And then towards the big move that they've made, it was trading for Geno Smith. How to analyze that? Yeah, it just goes hand in hand with what I said about Pete Carroll and where the Vegas are right now. They are not in a rebuild. They want to be competitive. They want to win right now. And I feel like given how they actually managed to have really good draft last year, it's possible that they could be competitive. I feel like there is a lot of untapped potential in this team, and it makes sense. Am I like, would this be my move? Probably not. I would probably like hit slight reset button for this team, but it was never kind of a possibility when you went and got Pete Carroll. It was clearly, yeah, we are here to win, we are going to try. And yeah, kudos to that. I would say there's a big potential that they will end up in some sort of purgatory in terms of like they will be good enough to just, win 9, potentially 10 games, flirt with the playoffs, but kind of never make noise there for next 3 years, while also not being bad enough to have great draft picks. It's a potential, but to me, this is like different from like what Steelers are doing or for Saints, what Saints are doing. From Steelers, it's like, well, for the Raiders right now, this wouldn't feel like the purgatory because, they have a lot of unsuccessful years behind them. So if they would be flirting with the playoffs and really being in that like mid-zone, it's not necessarily exciting, but it's much better than when they've been in the past couple of years. And they are not borrowing from the future like the Saints do to be there. So that's why even though I feel like this is going to most likely end up in this sort of purgatory, I feel like for Raiders right now, it's not a bad move for this franchise. In terms of other bringings, it was a lot of moves that I actually like. GMaty, I feel like is a very capable safety. If I had a choice of him or Trevor Murray, to me, GMaty is kind of at the same level right now. Probably doesn't have as much potential as Trevor has, but I get him for much cheaper. I do trust that Dan Quinn, who obviously had GMaty under him last year in Washington, and Pete Carroll, who worked with each other for long years with the Seahawks, they definitely talked about this, and I'm sure that Pete has top-notch notes about this guy and absolutely knows what he brings. Allen Roberts for $3 million, I don't get it. Like, this dude is just absolutely underpaid, almost criminally. I know he's not like a dude that gives you everything you would like from a linebacker, but what he does exceptionally well. And yeah, when you are defensive head coach, you can definitely work with that. It's a surprise that he is only signed for $3 million a year. He's 31, so that probably makes why this is toned down, but to me he's at least like $6 million type of player, hence why I absolutely like this. And again, like Roberts Spillane or Allen Roberts, comparing the money, I'm going with Roberts all day long. Then Raheem Mostert, the dude that was released by the Dolphins and they were able to pick him up for super cheap. I mean, it doesn't stop you from drafting Ashton Jeanty, which is definitely my plan for the Raiders. I strongly believe it's the Raiders plan as well. But like this dude, especially if Jeanty is there, like I think Raheem Mostert will be like absolutely cool with having like 75-25% split in terms of how much he's actually going to touch the ball. And there is also like Zamir White, but Raheem Mostert like gives you this like home run potential. If you give him 5 touches a game, for 5, it might be he gives you 10 yards and it's nothing there. One touch could be magic. He could give you 50 yards and he could swing the game. So absolutely after signing for what is it, 1.6 million, there is pretty much no no negatives on the signing. At worst, Raheem Mostert is not the player that he was like 2 years ago, and age decline was looking like it last year. If it continues, well, at worst, you just did pay 1.6 million for almost nothing. So yeah, whatever. I really like the signing, if that's not clear. In terms of other guys, they were able to bring Malcolm Kuntz back for 1 year, prove it type of deal. I think it's a cool deal. Why I'm not like stoked about this, again, if this was like 2 year 20 million, I'm much more okay with this, or I would like it much more, because this is a type of player that could have a breakout year, and if so, like I'm going to have to pay for it in 26 and beyond. And if he doesn't, like 10 million is slight overpay, I think, for his current skills, so it's like kind of in the middle. But yeah, you know what you are getting with him. He is a good guy in terms of rotation and could be a starter if Tyree Wilson doesn't improve. Eric Stokes, again, like losing Nate Hobbs sucks. You are replacing him with like less of a player in terms of caliber, but much cheaper, kind of 1 year replacement. I'm okay with that. Alex Kappa, feel like gives you, I would say, veterancy that you kind of lost with Andre James. So I kind of see it as a move, like letting Andre James go and bringing cheaper Alex Kappa, which works for me. Is he a starter? Do I like? Would I love him to be my starter? Not necessarily, but it gives you flexibility because if you want, you can improve in terms of draft if you find the right guy. If you don't, he is a capable starter. Like he's going to be like 50th best guard, so guy that could start if you need to. So I'm absolutely okay with the signing, especially for this type of money because like guards, even I would say lesser guards sign for more even in this year of free agency. Where does this leave us in terms of this roster? Well, Gino has updated stats on the previous slide. So in terms of offensive line, again, this could be their starters. JPJ, Dylan Parham, DJ Glaze, Alex Kappa, Colton Miller. I'm super happy that both JPJ and DJ Glaze really worked out last season. Dylan Parham had a really good year. This is his contract year, so he's playing for big extension. Like, don't be surprised if he gets north of 15 millions, and if he has as good of a year as he had last year, it might even be 20, which would be crazy, but yeah, it's a possibility in this year's guard market. Still, with Dylan Parham only having 1 year, Alex Kappa not being like a super great option that I am stoked about starting, I would probably be looking at guard in this draft. Colton Miller, also you could think about replacing him as he is 30, but to me, he is still really, really capable tackle, and given the window that we talked about with the Vegas, they are trying to win, I do expect them to prolong Colton Miller for a couple of years and to have this veteran presence next to this upcoming young offensive line that, as he could decline in 2 years, those guys are going to be in uprise and kind of this shift of power in terms of this offensive line. So I'm actually a huge fan of this line. It's very well put together. It's great that rookies last year put up great performances. Dylan Parham had his breakout year. So this is really good offensive line that not many people are talking about. Obviously, really good, I mean average in terms of NFL, but it has a very nice potential. If they hit with a draft, because I don't see a huge ceiling on Alex Kappa, we might be talking about offensive line that's amazing starting, good starter, and important starter, which would be really top notch. Again, that's if guys hit their ceiling, which is not very likely for all of them to happen, but they have it in them, in my opinion. So it's fun. With Gino, I talk about him in terms of quality. To me, he is between 15 to 20 best quarterback in the league. He's a guy that when I originally saw that trade, I thought well, it really depends on how much they're going to pay him. And the payment is not actually severe. It's they prolonged his contract by 2-year extension of 75 million, which puts him under 40 million a year, which is exactly where, to me, guys like Gino should be. You cannot pay them premium, but of course they are not 20 millions like Justin Fields. They actually proved that they are capable starters. So I feel this works both ways for both Raiders and Gino, because he gets a really nice chunk of money, which probably was not on his list 6 years ago. Obviously, he's reunited with Pete Carroll, under which he had his breakout in Seahawks. So I think this works both ways very, very well. In terms of playmakers, I feel this team still misses their running back number one. That's why I'm mocking them, Ashton Jeanty, since January. I really feel this is a perfect fit. To me, he could be as good as a beast mode, which is I'm a Seahawks fan. I love Marshawn Lynch, and if I'm saying a guy could be as good as future Hall of Famer and exceptional running back, that's high praise. But I really believe Ashton Jeanty could be that guy, and kind of it would feel almost poetic if Pete Carroll in his second or third huge NFL opportunity got his recreation of beast mode in Ashton Jeanty. And I definitely feel with Chip Kelly, they want to run the ball. I am freaking certain about that. So I think Ashton Jeanty to them makes total sense. And I wouldn't put it past Raiders to like even secure this and try to, perhaps go to number 4 with Patriots so they can get Ashton Jeanty, because when I started to mocking this, it was like, this is reach, you can draft running back 6. I mean, of course you can, especially as good of a guy as Jeanty is. And right now there are some talks about, some other teams like the Bears, for example, jumping the gun, trying to trade with Jacksonville and actually getting Jeanty. So to me, if I'm Raiders, I feel like he's kind of the missing piece for this offense. And I'm actually willing to pay some extra ammunition to really get him, because to me, he's just absolutely what this team needs. In terms of like weapons, you have Brock Bowers, you have Jacoby Myers, so I'm not super worried about like missing wide receiver 2, because you kind of have that in Brock Bowers, or like you have a wide receiver 1 in him. And it's a huge year for Michael Mayer, of course, because this dude had like a down year last season, but there were some personal stuff that I like don't want to publish. If you want to look it up, look it up, that I feel like were directly involved in him like not having a great season. And yeah, I really strongly believe that him and Brock Bowers definitely can work together. I think they are actually complementary to each other. And I think he's going to have a good season, and I just wish it to him. So even though here it's kind of missing that wide receiver 2, I'm not actually under impression that they naturally need to invest in this position. In terms of backups, yeah, here's where I struggle a bit, because I'm not necessarily under impression that they need to invest in a wide receiver 2. I think they need to invest in wide receiver, because after Myers, who is only 1 year left on his deal, you have Trey Tucker, and then it's I don't know, like Alex Bachman is their third best wide receiver. Yeah, it's crazy. They don't really have wide receivers. I mean, they don't need much, because I think they're going to be in 12 or 14 personnel a lot. But you need something. You need something more. In terms of backup tight end, it could be Ian Thomas. I feel like he is a solid player that could work here, but really not like, I don't put it past them to draft another guy, because why not? And in terms of backups for this offensive line, yet again, the reason why I would also like look at addressing guard in terms of this draft is they don't really have backups for that position, or at least backups that I definitely trust. Okay, that's pretty much your offense for the Raiders. Now let's focus on the defense. I feel like you have your 2 guys, and Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins, that you hope that will play together, kind of not for the first time, but you obviously didn't get the best out of Christian Wilkins in like 4 games that he managed to play last year. Also, Max Crosby had a down year. I feel like he was playing with injury, was reported. So this should be much different defensive line than it was last season. Tyree Wilson, he improved. Is he necessarily a guy that is repaying dividends of super high draft pick? No, but I do expect him to be a starter and kind of rotate with Malcolm Kuntz, so the edge should be sorted out. What I'm missing is another defensive tackle next to Christian Wilkins. They have Adam Butler, kind of veteran. To me, he's a free. I don't want him necessarily to be a starter for me, but he will do. Him. They have Ifotu. They have bodies there, but they don't have anyone that is exciting. And also I feel like teams sometimes underestimate the power that you can generate if you have guys that the defensive line or offensive line needs to swing towards, like Max Crosby or Christian Wilkins. If you have guys that can take advantage and not lose their matchup, that could be hugely powerful. So I actually do expect them to target defensive tackle in this year's draft, because it's a good tackle draft class. In terms of linebackers, I like Landon Roberts. I'm not necessarily sure if Tommy Eichenberg did enough to earn his LB2 spot. And also Landon Roberts is not necessarily 3-down linebacker, but you have Jeremy Chin, who could do some linebacker duties, do some crazy stuff with him. So I'm excited how they will manage this, but I actually feel like linebacker 2 is kind of a position of need. And it's kind of unfortunate that this year's draft is not actually very kind to this position. With that being said, let's focus on the secondary. As I said, they don't really have much. I was not lying. This secondary is pretty much depleted. Okay, I like GMaty-NFL. There is something to like about Jack Jones, but other than that, like, are you entrusting this into Decameron Richardson, whom I like in terms of draft value last year, but as a starter right now, I'm not super certain. And it's like Kai Blue Kelly, like there is this secondary is also depleted as F, so while I like a lot of things about the Raiders, there's a lot of like clear weaknesses on this team's roster. I don't think that these weaknesses should stop you from drafting GMaty though. Like, if we are at least fun offensively, that's a win in my call. In terms of backups, there are some guys, like I said, Adam Butler, Malcolm Koonce, Tommy Eichenberg, Cameron Richardson. I mean, like I said, edge, you should not think about this. I feel like Malcolm Koonce, Terry Wilson, Max Crosby, that's enough. You have a lot of other needs that you should focus in the draft. Speaking of draft, let's take a look at what I did. Well, it was easy. I went for Ashton Jeanty. This is absolutely a draft pick that I would make like 20 times out of 15, whatever. Then, like I said, I feel like you are missing super in terms of secondary, and Shavon Revel, to me, he's a guy that could go even higher than here. I think this is kind of his appropriate spot. There are some injury concerns with him, but I think you are kind of in a position that you should be taking a risk, because like if you go for like an average guys, you don't necessarily have an upside, like good enough upside of this team. To me, you are kind of shooting for the stars. Even with Jeanty, like you are kind of banking on this one style of play, short game, run the freaking ball, and sometimes throw a beautiful deep ball from Geno Smith to Trey Tucker, and that's going to work. It could with this offensive line, but it's not like you have necessarily so many plan Bs, especially when your third best wide receiver is, we know. Then Tate Ratledge, to me, like I absolutely don't understand why this is a C-. Perhaps like PFF doesn't consider guard need for this team, but one, I do, and B, there is not that many great interior offensive linemen in this draft, and Tate Ratledge is definitely worth this pick in my opinion, especially when I talked about what they want to do. Joshua Farmer, I need to invest in this defensive line, and I feel like he has a potential to start even right away to like outperform Adam Butler. So absolutely, Mitchell Evans, to me, he gives you tremendous value. To me, he's more of like late 90s, early 100s type of a tight end, not necessarily 143. So yeah, to me, this is a value, and also he is big. So when we want to run the ball, which is a lot, I actually prefer him towards like wide receivers and go for 13 personnel. Him, Mayer, and Bowers, I think like can definitely work, all of them on the field. Jalen Travis, again, I want to run the ball. Let's run it behind one of the biggest guys in this draft. With running the ball, it comes Basil Tutin. Again, I want to run the ball as much as I can. And Basil, one, I think he is a tremendous value here, because to me he's more of a fourth round guy. And, he's kind of replacement for Raheem Mostert in terms of like he has an elite speed. So he's kind of my breakaway potential. Give him 5 carries and hope for a 50-yarder, and don't be mad if he goes 5 carries for 10 yards. So that's kind of how I view this. And I would be super happy with this draft for the Raiders. Does this draft fix all of the needs that they have? No, but it's kind of because they have a lot of needs. So it's kind of pick your poison, and I've chosen actually a really nice drink in my eyes. So now let's move towards the next team, and the next team is Denver Broncos. So about losses, they've lost Cody Barton. In terms of how much this is influential with Draglin resigning, not really very much. Not resigning, signing obviously. I don't think it is. I think Cody is a good player. I don't think he's as good as Grisino. Obviously, G comes with potential like injury concerns. Cody does not necessarily have that, so you are kind of taking this risk. But to me, Broncos are in position to take those risks because they are not necessarily in such a good state of their roster that if they go for like regular guys who never get injured but always play, but are like worse than the guy that his upside is theoretically much better, I don't think they have too much of a chance. In terms of other guys, they didn't really lost too much. So we go towards resigning. They resigned DJ Jones. This is a lot of money for DJ Jones in my eyes. Would I say too much money? Yeah, kind of. Again, I understand the value that he brings to this team. It's good rewarding your own, and also it's like, yeah, is there a lot of interior guys on the market that are cheaper than this? Not necessarily. So like 13 million a year, like it's not huge overpay, but to me it's a slight overpay, and I don't necessarily see this contract ever being a value. So I'm not slamming this. I'm just saying, yeah, I'm not super stoked about this. I understand it though. In terms of other guys, they brought several players, and pretty much all of them I like. So with Dragunov, I super like this. He's cheaper because of that injury, but I feel like he's going to be like 1.5 years from that injury that he suffered in the Super Bowl when we entered the season, and he's only like 28. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, he's 28. I think his best football should still be ahead of him, and this could be a tremendous value. Obviously, it comes with a risk, so hence A-. Like, he's not a slam dunk pick, but yeah, for the money, I would absolutely take this risk any day of the week. Evan Ingram is the guy that they kind of waited for Jacksonville to release, and they just snatch him up. He's perfect for Sean Payton's offense. I think he's not a tight end as any sense of the way anymore. Like, to me, he's a wide receiver in this scheme, and he's going to be widely productive. I feel like, like not necessarily Jimmy Graham-esque in terms of like his peak. I think Jimmy Graham was at his peak with Drew Brees. I mean, what is going on with my memory with Drew Brees? Like there were some of the like most elite threat duo in the league, but Evan Ingram, what is going on? And Bo Nix, I mean, I'm just having brain farts, sorry guys. Could be like 80% of that in like best case scenario, which obviously would be a huge win. Is he cheap? No, but I think he's definitely worth it, especially for this team. Talanoa Hufanga, here I have my concerns about injury stuff, B, about the size of this contract, and C, like, he is a risk taker, and I think Dre is kind of the same. So, I like that they are together because they can, I think, complement each other and kind of like be reasonable in that sense, and they are used to play in each other's space. So, because of that, I'm like, if this was another team, I would probably give it like a C or C-. Because of this connection, it's kind of a C+, but it's risk. It's risk, definitely. Given his injuries, given the size of this contract, which is like, yeah, it looks like a small one, but there is 15 million pushed down the line for 2028 in terms of that cap hit. So it's not just 30 millions or whatever is on this first 3 years of this deal. I like Hufanga, but yeah, there's definitely risk connected towards this contract. Where does this leave this roster overall? I think in a good state, because like this offensive line is one of those lines that not many people actually mention, but have great Pro Bowl, I would say top 5 guard in the league in Quinn Miners. They have very solid tackles in McGlinchey and Bowles. Luke Wattenberg, they definitely knew what they were doing when they let Lloyd Cushenberry go. And Bertha Bowers is just a very solid guard next to these guys. So this is a very good offensive line. And the good thing for you is, like, only Wattenberg is out of a contract for next season. So you are set to go with this offensive line. It's obviously what Sean Payton values a lot. So it's not a surprise that they kind of have this figured out for years to come. Bo Nix, yeah, he had a very good rookie season, and there should be continual improvement in his game. In terms of playmakers, I know that when you look at this couple of, or like 4 wide receivers, it seems like, okay, they probably need to invest in this group. To me, they don't, because I do count Evan Ingram as a wide receiver, and also like Troy Franklin, Devon Valley, and Marvin Mims, they are all still young guys. So while Cortland Sutton only has 1 year left, I definitely want to give these guys opportunity. So if there is a player that I consider a steal for this group, I'm taking him. But if they didn't draft a wide receiver in this draft, I would absolutely not be shocked, because I think this group is actually very well organized for what they want to do, and you need to give these young guys an opportunity to play, because to me, they've earned it. I don't think they necessarily, for a team that wants to run the ball, I would say fairly often, they don't necessarily have running backs that I trust, like Charlie McLaughlin or Rick Estime. I don't see a feature back in this duo. So to me, they are definitely a prime team to draft running back within the first 2 rounds. In terms of backups for this offense, there are a couple of guys. I have Troy Franklin actually in both scenarios. That could be, they could be Trent Shanfield here. It could also be like Nate Atkins or Lucas Krull. So they have a bunch of bodies that I feel like Sean Payton is going to like to use. So I feel like they're kind of actually set for the offense. They might be looking at the tight end position as something that they didn't solve with Evan Ingram, because again, I don't think he's going to be playing tight end too much. And B, Troutman, Atkins, and Krull all have 1 year last year of their contract. So I think actually if they are going to invest in like playmaker position, it's going to be rather tight end than wide receiver. And of course, it feels like they should invest into running back. In terms of backups, like they have Jarrett Stidham, probably he's going to end up being their backup quarterback, but I feel like, as soon as they should cut him. To me, he's just not worth like $8 million cap hit next season, and you can save like 5 of it. So to me, they are one of the teams that should draft a quarterback in like late rounds of this draft to have a cheap backup. And also to me, they are missing backup in terms of their tackle position. So in terms of defense, they are actually looking quite set. What I'm kind of missing is this defensive line is solid. It's like very good, very interesting. I like Zach Allen, but it kind of misses a beat. That's where like DJ Jones signing makes a ton of sense, because he's kind of a key guy in that area. But 1, he's 30, B, he's not like superb. So if there is another position that I would expect them to really target in this draft, it would be actually defensive tackle that would bring a mass into this group, because you have a lot of guys with smooth pass rush moves that are like either very technically sound or they are very speedy, but I want a guy that's going to give me a mass. So I'm kind of missing that in this group. In terms of linebackers, yeah, you are absolutely set with Alex Singleton and Reginald. The only concern is that between these 2 guys, you have under 300 snaps in 2024 because of injuries. So that's like one thing you might be a little bit worried about. But they also have like Drew Sanders, Justin Sternard. So I don't think they are worried that much. Like obviously you want these guys out there, but I think they are set in case one of them goes down. In terms of secondary, really kind of one question is, are you going to invest? Do you want to bring a guy opposite to Pat Surtain, or are you happy with young guys in Riley Moss and Jaquan McMillan? I think the answer to this is depends on the situation in terms of draft. Like I feel like if there is a great player that feels like a steal, you should bring him, because again, you cannot never have like too many great corners. B, like Jaquan McMillan and Riley Moss could kind of rotate. You also have Damari Mattis here, so you have depth, but I would be okay, definitely okay with like bringing another guy into consideration and just like even improve the secondary, because like this could have a potential of actually being one of the best secondaries if there was either Jaquan McMillan or Riley Moss taking a huge step up, or if you bring a guy that can do it from this draft, because in terms of safeties, Brandon Jones had an exceptional year, and I still really like Talanoa Hufanga, and they obviously do with how much they paid him. So with that being said, who are their backups? And again, like their backups for secondary it's looking quite good. I like GMaty. I like PJ Locke in terms of I kind of hate his contract because it's not hate his contract, but it's like he could be a guy that, in case you stumble upon a safety in this year's draft that you like, you might still cut him and save like $4 million, because why not? On the other side, it was clearly that they wanted to replace him with Talanoa. But, as an experienced backup for $5 million, I mean, you can go worse than this. Again, like, do you want to bring another guy into the mix? Perhaps you could, or you can definitely leave it as it is. In terms of defensive line, like I said, you have DJ Jones, and I don't necessarily see other guys. I mean, they have Malcolm Roach, Eoma Uwazurike, I mean, Jonah Ellis is there. I mean, like, this team is actually projecting to make a mess this year, so I would probably be more into like having better depth. But if there is like one position I would absolutely attack with a premium, it would be a defensive tackle. Otherwise, like, this defense doesn't need much. Like, if it can be great defensive tackle and great corner, superb. If it's just great defensive tackle, I'm absolutely okay with that. With that being said, let's watch their draft. So, like I said, to me, this team wants to run the ball and doesn't necessarily have a feature back. So with Omarion Hampton still on the board, I absolutely am going for him. Benjamin Morrison is a luxury pick in my eyes, but this team doesn't really feel like they need super much. So when there was not defensive tackles that I was actually like super stoked about at this point of the draft, I was like, okay, Benjamin Morrison is kind of a guy that I'm drafting him for a lot of teams. It kind of says how much I think he's undervalued by the PFF. To me, he is like a 30 to 35 type of draft guy. I wouldn't mind if he goes like late end of the first round. So again, it's a luxury pick, yes, but it really has the making of making this secondary really special. Jared Wilson, again, like, Luke Wattenberg has money left on his deal. Jared Wilson is like top 3 like center in this draft. He is a big dude. He allows you to run the ball very well. I mean, what more do you want? Mitchell Evans, we already talked about him with some other drafts. I want to run the ball. Let's bring some mass. The same goes for Jalen Travis. Like, again, this draft feels similar to the Raiders, because I kind of want to do the same things with this offense. So yeah, I'm kind of okay slightly overdrafting these players based on BFF, because A, I don't think it's an overdraft in my books. B, they allow me to do what I want to do. And at the end of the draft, I was like, who is kind of the biggest player there that could really bring a mass into this position of defensive line? And I went for Junior Tafuna. He's big, like, he's over 300 pounds. I feel like he could. I mean, look, yeah, you better look at some of his picture. Like, he's older. I don't mind that. Like, I really want him to play like 10 snaps a game and really help me stop the run in case of emergency. So that's what I need from him. And if I could get a contributor from 280 pick of the draft, hell yeah, I'm taking that. So I would be very happy for the Broncos for this draft, because I think it's definitely putting me into the direction that I want to do. I want to run the ball. Great. I drafted tight end that helped me, both center and tackle that helped me, and a feature back. I have a great secondary, but I could do one extra corner there. Great. I found a steal for this guy. Next thing is, I want to kind of get rid of Jared Stidham after this year. Okay, let's go for Mark Brosmer, who I feel like he is a smart dude that you kind of can hand the keys of the offense in case of Bo Nix going down. So everything I kind of wanted is here, beside the fact that I would really appreciate to have a great defensive tackle in this draft. And if I'm Broncos, I would actually consider kind of borrowing from next year's draft to put back in like early second round. I mean, I would probably go as far as like sacrificing my first to go and draft like between like 30 to 40 if there is a defensive tackle that I like on this board, because this team is actually could be very dangerous this season. That's what I'm going to say. It's time to continue with this division, and we will continue with the LA Chargers. To me, their offseason was kind of surprisingly quiet, but let's take a look at what they actually did. So, they have lost a couple of players that as of right now are all unsigned. The biggest loss is obviously Asante Samuel, whom, because of injuries, did not really play that much last season, not necessarily look great, and it seems like they're going with their youth movement, whether it's Tarheeb Still, Elijah Molden, or Cam Hart. So, kind of big loss, yet kind of expected. Though, I feel like given if he kind of remains unsigned, they might come up with some one-year deal for him. In terms of Gus Dabas or J.K. Dobbins, to me, they tried it. Neither of these guys was particularly special, and they are kind of going with a better running back in Najee Harris because, well, they want to run the ball and they want guys they can depend on. And unfortunately, Gus Dabas, truth to be told, I don't think is that good anymore. And with J.K. Dobbins, the recurring problem of his injury is always a looming issue. So neither of these departures are surprising. What was surprising to me was not Christian Fulton because he, again, similar to Asante Samuel, they found their guys. They want to go youth. They want to go cheaper there. I understand it. But Puna Ford, dude, this team was struggling to find a great interior defensive lineman for several years. They had Khalil Mack, they had Joey Bosa, that power from the edge, but interior was poor. And then Puna arrived last year and was having a tremendous year. And I thought he's going to go and sign some type of $15 million a year type of deal. And I'm like, I would still pay that if I'm Chargers. But letting him go towards local rival in LA Rams for $9 million a year for a 3-year deal, dude, I just don't freaking get it. I seriously doubt that if you throw at Puna $11 million that he would not stay. Clearly it's not a city because he's still staying in LA. I just don't understand this one. This to me, one, is absolutely amazing signing for the Rams. B, is just mind-boggling why they let Puna Ford go as a Chargers. I don't get it, man. If anyone follows Chargers much closely, explain this to me. I don't. One of the most surprising moves because you were struggling to find that guy. You have found him, and now you are letting him go for very cheap in my eyes for what the player he was last year. Maybe you feel like it was 1 year of greatness, but Puna was still good with the Seahawks on his rookie deal, then was kind of bouncing around, playing, but man, I don't know. This is one of the most baffling moves in my eyes. There could be a second explanation, and that would be but this is the good draft to get interior defensive linemen. I agree. Still, I mean, come on, this is not that much money for Puna Ford. Really not getting this. In terms of guys that they brought or keep, Elijah Molden, they he kind of had a breakout year last season with them, and they signed him for a reasonable contract that, to me, works for both parties. He's going to get paid, and I feel Chargers are getting a good value on him. The amazing signing or re-signing is Khalil Mack. To me, he's for $18 million a year. It's a bargain. I know he is a veteran, and you probably expect him to lose a step sooner than later. But I mean, his last 2 years, he was really amazing. So I don't know. To me, this was by far the best move that they made in this offseason. Denzel Berman is kind of a guy that I would not actually expect to start. I feel like they have young players, Junior Colson and me and my memories, you will see it back then. But Denzel Perman is kind of your security blanket to have there. So to me, good signing, nothing special, but I definitely do understand. And then they also invested in their O-line in Mekhi Becton. Again, love the signing. I think Mekhi was really special for the Eagles last year. I'm sorry, Phillies. I'm watching baseball as well. So for Philadelphia last year. But the only question with him is obviously health. Eagles stumbled into him having a full health season. That's not what he's known for. So it's a risk, but I feel for $10 million a year for what he could be at his prime, because I still think his prime could be ahead of him. Yeah, to me this is quite a bargain. Mike Williams kind of rare-ranting here. Yeah, like it makes sense. Like he always had connection with Justin Herbert, and if this doesn't work, if he's injured or if he's like a shell of himself, whatever, it's $3 million, man. And if it does work, like he's still like 2 years, 3 years ago, him and Justin Herbert, that was connection that people were truly afraid of. So like, yeah, his last year was kind of ugly, kind of bouncing around, really never getting it going in Pittsburgh, in the Jets. But here with Justin, I really feel like he could be actually a nice weapon for them. And what I also like is signing of Najee Harris. One, it's a bargain. To me, Najee is worth more. And I think Najee knows that as well. And to me, this is like mutually beneficial agreement. Najee is like, okay, I'm going to be a feature back here behind a great offensive line with a team that wants to run the ball and with a great quarterback that they have to respect his throwing ability, so they cannot just take the box because then Justin Herbert is going to punish them. Amazing, I can show what I have. I'm not like tied to this team post this season, so I can go and take a great contract, whether it's here or somewhere else. Contract that should, like, I think he's going to earn himself a contract unless he goes down north of 10 million after the season. I really think that's in him. And for the Chargers, it's also mutually beneficial because, yeah, you are getting great running back for 1 year, kind of a guy that you will use him kind of as your workhorse, as well as he wants to use this way. So you are not necessarily like tied to his future in terms of, okay, if he injures himself, whatever, you are not tied to that. And if he works for you, you might just get him back next season and actually like make him your feature back for a couple of years to come. So I think this works perfectly well for both sides. Really one of the moves that to me makes the best sense for both parties. Like I would say top 5 moves in terms of I understand both sides totally. So then they also went and signed a couple of veterans. Tyler Heineke is the only one that I am like disliking. Why? Because they had Easton Stick. To me, he kind of showed that he is a solid backup, especially like behind Justin Herbert. I think it works better than Tyler Heineke. I don't know, like why would you like swing the boat here? Bradley Bozeman, from what I understand, his contract is slightly more expensive, which would make this grade like somewhere in like B or C. Or like solid veteran center that, you know, the same with Andrew James. They kind of go with center by committee and we will see what is going to happen. Dante Jackson, yeah, I'm not like super happy about the signing. It feels like too much money on a guy that didn't work last season, like for anyone pretty much. He was not playing well, and this is just too much money. Like this is 7 million a year, 6.5. Like if you could bring Asante Samuel for 10 back or like 8 back, I would much rather have Asante Samuel than Dante Jackson. Tart was kind of absolutely necessary to bring back because like him and Puna was the mass behind this defensive line. So at least they managed to bring Tart back on very good contract for them, not necessarily for Tier. I would expect him to get like 6 or 7 million. So 4.5 is actually very good for him. So I like that, but again, Puna for 9 would be just special in my eyes. How does this leave this roster as of right now? So you have your tackles. Joey Alt, first year he already showed what he's capable of. We already knew he's a blue chip prospect. Yeah, works. Rashawn Slater only has 1 year left on his deal. It is kind of surprising they didn't re-sign him as of right now. I don't know what's taking so long because I cannot imagine them losing him or trading him or like whatever. So it feels like it's going to happen. I don't know why you prolong that because it probably is going to cost you money. So quite an interesting situation to follow. In terms of interior, I mean, to me, this is still a place that I would not hesitate to invest if I'm Chargers. Why? Because with Mekhi Becton, you don't know what you're gonna get in terms of his health. I'm sorry for this card. Check the prior card. This one is actually correct in terms of his money. So sorry for the one here. Bradley Bozeman is like a solid center, but nothing more. And Zion Johnson in his 3 years, like he finally was looking good last year. But am I like super stoked about paying him because this is last year of his rookie deal? Not really. Do I necessarily trust him to continue to play like he did last year? I don't know. So for a team that definitely wants to make their lines the identity they want to build from the trenches, I'm not necessarily like stoked about this interior. How do they look like in terms of playmakers? Well, not very great. They have Lad, who is a good lad. Sorry, it's bad, but yeah, they have lad. And Quentin Johnston. He was solid last year. I feel like he did not allow his first year struggles to really break him, yet he's still far from what you expected from him, like 2 years ago when they drafted him in the first round. It really depends how they are going to approach the draft. In terms of, are they actually entrusting Quentin Johnston to be number 2, Mike Williams to be 3? I would not mind that. They also lost Joshua Palmer in the offseason, but I would not mind that. Why? Because to me, again, with how I believe they want to build this up, it's a lot about tight ends as well. And I really feel like if they draft Colston Loveland, which is kind of an obvious pick for them in the first round, someone that is mocked to them for like pretty much 2 years ever since Harbaugh just took over. Like, okay, it's like 1.5 years as of right now. No, it's 2 years. Yeah, you know me. Like happens. You know what I mean. So now it's just a year, right? I'm stupid. It's just a year and a couple of months. But he was pretty much mocked to them because of Michigan connection, because they need tight end. So yeah, if they have Colston Loveland, Will Dissly, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Mike Williams, I think that's enough firepower with Najee Harris to just work with Justin Herbert. I think it's enough. I don't necessarily believe they will invest high draft pick towards wide receiver, especially when they kind of did that last two drafts, and Quentin Johnston first round, Ladd McConkey second round. That's big investment. So I really believe that they kind of will let this room settle in terms of not high investments. And I would be okay if I'm Chargers fan to see that. In terms of backups for this offensive line, like I talked about them actually like going for like better players in terms of a draft. The truth to be told, they have backups. They have Andre James, they have Trey Pipkins, who is kind of sixth man for this entire offensive line. He can play tackle, he can play guard. So I will not be shocked if they don't draft offensive linemen, but I would actually. So we will see. And Mike Williams, of course. In terms of defense, I feel like, yeah, there's clear need for defensive tackle. T.R. Tart, good. Khalil Mack, you have 1 year. T.R. Tart, you have 1 year. Tuli Polotu, I mean, okay, like he's great number 2 or a good number 2. I'm not necessarily certain he's ready to be 1. So you have a lot of questions for this defensive line because Khalil Mack, does he hang up his cleats after the season? It's most likely. Is Tuli ready to like be a successor to him? Very, very tough ask. Like just a year ago, you were behind Joey Bosa and Khalil Mack, and suddenly you should be the one. Okay, tough one. And T.R. Tart, again, like you have him only for 1 year, so this is kind of unit that I would definitely focus a lot of my investments. In terms of linebackers, I actually don't expect them to invest here because Dan Henley and Junior Colson are interesting young linebackers, and you have Denzel Perryman and one more guy. Let me check on this one. Yeah, Troy Dye. That, in case of these guys are not working, you are kind of okay putting veterans in. So you need to be cheap somewhere, and I feel like this is the position that they will definitely try to do so. In terms of the secondary, yet another position where I feel like they are not necessarily like great, but they will go and take a look at this unit and be like, okay, if there is a super value pick, we will take a corner, but we don't need to. We have Kamhar, we have Tyler Hitzel, both of them played very solid. We have Elijah Molden. We have really good safety duo in Derwin James and Al Gilman. We brought Dante Jackson, though I don't agree with the pay. He's a good number 4 corner. So I do expect them to not touch this room unless there is like a clear steal in draft. In terms of safeties, Derwin James, obviously kind of a face of this franchise, or one of the faces of this franchise. Next to him, you have Alohi Gilman, who, yeah, I'm sorry for laughing, but it's just the picture. Like whenever it was like clear, the background and the helmet of a Bronco player just stayed there, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to clear that. So this is not supposed to be morbid. This is just fun to me. I hope you guys take it the same. For all, he has only 1 year left on his contract, so this could be a chance for them to draft a successor, and also like they don't necessarily have great depth in terms of safeties. So we will see whether they like choose to like go and pay Alahoy or they try to replace him. We'll see. But as of right now, like I'm not super worried about the secondary. I think it's young, but it's good. It's good enough for what you do. I would not invest here, neither in linebackers. In terms of defense, I would definitely invest in defensive line. In terms of backups, I feel like edge is also a position where you kind of have Bud Dupree, who I'm not like super happy to be my backup. Truth to be told, I think he's rather 4 than 3. And that's pretty much it in terms of guys that I actually kind of like. There is Justin Aboigbe, whom they drafted last year, might get a chance. In terms of secondary or like linebackers, I feel like they are kind of set there. We already talked, they have like a 6th man in Dante Jackson, they have Jasir Taylor, you have Denzel Perryman and Troy Dye. In terms of linebackers, again, only thing missing could be a safety. So with that, having as a knowledge, what did I do with the draft for the Chargers? Well, I had some fun with this one. I really had some fun with this one because I did something that I rarely do, and that's borrow from the future. And I borrowed their 3rd, their 4th, and their 6th from next year. I only brought 5th back, so I kind of depleted 2026 draft for the Chargers, but I think it was worth it. Though PFF disagree. What a shocker. We don't tend to see eye to eye with my mock drafts in terms of their rankings, but let's start. Colston Loveland definitely fit that, just makes total sense. Like he is a tight end number 2 in this draft. I would not put it like past some teams to draft him even sooner. And you just know that this is a fit. So if he's there, I just don't see Chargers passing up on him. And then I was like, draft up for number 40, because then there was still the best like, pure guard in my eyes of this draft still on like behind Grace Abel, but like some of the guys have him as a tackle, so like okay, maybe number 2 in terms of guard. And Tyler Booker was still on the board. And you might say, well, why Tyler Booker? Because like you already said, they have backups for the interior, and they have invested in Mekhi Becton, they have brought Bradley Boseman, they have brought Andrew Jave, they have Trey Pipkins. I understand all of that, but to me, Trey Pipkins, especially in this scenario, is much more a backup tackle rather than backup guard. I don't trust Mekhi Becton in terms of his injury, and this kind of means I'm also not like super comfortable resigning Zion Johnson back, because I think like either he's just not worth like a lot of money, or B, he will demand way too much money. And I feel like Tyler Booker could be on the same level pretty much within like 6 months as Zion Johnson is right now. So when he was still on the board, he was not like my first choice to go for when I was thinking about this draft, but still being on board and just not paying like super premium in my eyes for him, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going for this guy. And with the rest of the draft, pretty much, it was like, yeah, I want to bolster my defensive line. And with that, I kind of did it in the way that when I was drafting Shemar Turner, I was already thinking I need to bring nose tackle in that room, because Shemar Turner is not necessarily the greatest run stopper that you have. So that's where Jamari Caldwell comes in. So they are kind of a package for me, that when you mesh these two guys together, they can definitely play off each other, like next to each other, and can complement themselves very well. So that was kind of my thinking. Let's just do what they do, bolster trenches, and just bring Colston Loveland, because he's just such an amazing fit. And to me, does it leave them with like glaring weaknesses? In my eyes, no, because I think like 3 good wide receivers are enough. When you have some nice tight ends you can pass the ball to as well, you have pretty much impenetrable offensive line in terms of depth and quality. Like I don't think like you would have to like lose 3 players, and obviously like if you lose Rashawn Slater and you have to replace him with Trey Pipkins, it hurts, but it's not like for you to not have at least a good offensive line, you would have to lose like 3 players. So that's great, because that should be what we try to do. And also, I feel like I've prepared this defensive line to actually be a nuisance for opposition. And obviously, I have to count on young guys in secondary and as linebackers that they can work it out. But with the kind of like security blankets in terms of some veterans that I have there, I'm like absolutely okay with that. So to me, that would be a very, very interesting draft for the Chargers. I'm not expecting them to do so many wheelings and dealings, but I had fun doing this one. And I know it looks crazy a little bit, and they might go other direction. Perhaps they go wide receiver. Perhaps they will prioritize defensive line over even Costa Loveland. But I think this is actually in the spirit of what Chargers could be looking to build. With that being said, let's go towards the last team of this division, and it's the Super Bowl losers. Chiefs. Yeah, they are walking a tightrope in terms of their window because, yeah, Travis Kelce, is he still a guy that you have to like really look forward? Patrick Mahomes last 2 years, I mean, he's winning games, but is he necessarily like this undisputed king of quarterbacks? I don't think anything says that. Okay, beside the wins column, like Vince column is still pretty good. Like he still won a Super Bowl and has been in one, but it's the second Super Bowl where he like lost pretty heavily. And truth to be told, I feel like Chiefs are much more about defense last 2 years or perhaps last 3 years. So let's watch their additions and their subtractions. So they let go Joe Thuney. Interesting choice. I feel like it was all part of the plan when they looked at Kingsley Suamataia, his struggles as a tackle, and we're like, okay, we shift him towards a guard. We do want to prolong Trey Smith to stay here, and like Joe Thuney, he probably would left after this year anyway. So this way, we save some money and we get some compensation. But still, losing Joe Thuney absolutely freaking sucks. So still, like, I understand the process. I'm not super happy with it, truth to be told. In the other two guys, like when I look at the money they received, yeah, this makes total sense to let them go. I'm not saying like losing them is not going to hurt in some capacity, but when you consider the amount of money they got, there's just no way the Chiefs, in like the cap space that they are working with, they could have like offer anything that's matching this. Like no way. I also think that both teams actually overpaid for these two guys. In terms of guys that they brought in, well, it's not necessarily spectacular in my eyes. Jalen Moore, I mean, he was a backup for San Fran, and obviously, like going and playing over Trent Williams, it's hard, but it's not like right tackle was necessarily a position that 49ers had like a lock on. There was Mike McGlinchey who went to Broncos like 3 years ago, and then it was like Colton McKivitz. I mean, if you cannot outplay Colton McKivitz, are you really a guy that I want to protect Patrick Mahomes? I mean, I guess if I'm Chargers fan, I am. Really interesting move. Like, I did not see this one coming. 15 million a year. I mean, again, like we live in a world when Dunmore for 20 millions does make a little bit of sense because there were just not great tackles. But like this is like you've invested almost the first round pick, like the second round pick in Kingsley. Now you are pretty much saying, okay, we push you to guard. Let's bring Jalen Moore. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. This looks a little bit desperate. I feel like Chiefs, like general management and coaching staff, deserve a ton of credit because they put amazing lineup year after year when they replenish the squad with like great players from deep of the draft. So I trust them. I still don't like these moves. Charles O'Malley, who is kind of whatever, like solid third edge for 7 million, it makes sense, I understand. Christian Fulton, I mean, what I don't necessarily like about this is like, was corners necessarily what you like needed to invest in? And it's not a small amount of money. I mean, I like Christian Fulton. I think he's a good corner. Like, I think Spike is going to have like his fun with him, and he's going to be successful. So actually, like, this is a C+. I'm like more of a side that I'm liking this, but there is a caution in me that says like, it seems like you are really great, pretty much taking corner in third, fourth, fifth round, even like or second round, and develop him into this. And when you don't necessarily have the money, I don't think like this was the position that I necessarily expect them to invest like a substantial amount. 10 million a year is not a small fee for the Chiefs. In terms of other guys, so they brought or franchise tag Trey Smith. Makes sense. I kind of expected them to go other way around, perhaps franchise tag Trey Smith and then trade him, keeping Joe Thuney for this 1 year and getting like bigger recoup of draft picks for Trey Smith. It seems like they are trying to figure out a future in which Trey Smith is actually a Chief for a long time. It's a tightrope that they need to walk in terms of his salary, but I think it could be a chance. Marquise Brown, like, it didn't work last year because of his injury. They are like, okay, let's give it another year. Kind of understand, especially with like Rashee Rice situation, and it seems like they want to be more about like actually throwing the ball, like bombing the ball a lot more than they used to in the last 2 years, like really making this offense more high octane. Makes sense. But Nick Bolton, yeah, I don't get it, man. Of course, Nick Bolton is not wide receiver, but the linebacker. Sorry, guys, there are some misses with this card. But why do you resign Nick Bolton? And like the answer is Nick Bolton is an amazing player. I get that's a fair answer, truth to be told, but like I get it would suck to like not like get much for him. They would probably get like compensation pick for him. But you have Leo Chanel, man. Like, what does it mean for the future of Leo Chanel? Because again, he probably is going to see the field for like 300, 400 snaps because you also have Drew Tranquil. And it's like, do you lose Leo Chanel then? That would suck too. So like that's the only like reason why I don't like it, because again, like I don't think they have too much money to invest around. And linebackers, you are prepared to lose Nick Bolton and not miss 2 beats. Perhaps miss a beat, but not miss 2 beats with Leo Chanel just waiting for his opportunity. And now I'm not sure if it comes, what do you do with him? And it's just not like a small amount of money, check of change that you give Nick Bolton. It's like 45 millions over 3 years. Like, I'm not saying Nick Bolton doesn't deserve this. I don't think this is an outrageous overpay by any stretch of imagination. It's just like, I don't understand it in the grand scheme of things when you are like, we try to win, we are on tight budget in terms of how much we can spend because of cap hit, and we invest into the position where we were like almost 95% okay, replacing the guy with one of our own who is amazing. So surprising. What does it leave this this lineup in terms of actual depth chart? So offensive line, well, you like Creed Humphrey, you like Trey Smith, and you obviously like Patrick Mahomes. The rest, I don't like. John Taylor, one of the biggest mistakes they've made in my eyes. Like, to me, his 19 penalties just doesn't even make justice. To me, he should have like 30. Like, he's like, what, 20th best right tackle, yet he's paid like a top 5, top 7. Yeah, he probably is going to be there for next year. Because like you don't want to like deal with this like losing both tackles or like not having really quality tackles, but this didn't work out. And on the other side, we'll talk about Jalen Moore and Kingsley Suamata. As of right now, he's not even slated to be a starter, but like how much do you put in like off-season depth charts? But like they have Mike Caliendo ahead of him, so I mean, if that's the case, is Kingsley Suamata already a bust? Like, I don't know. But yeah, this offensive line, like when the clear talk after the Super Bowl was like, yeah, Chiefs got spanked because of their offensive line. Does this offensive line looks better? Not to me. I'm worried. Like, maybe it works, and like Chiefs will put the rabbit out of the hat as they usually tend to do. But I am skeptical. I am for one skeptical of this offensive line. In terms of their playmakers, it seems like they're kind of set up, but we don't know Rashee Rice situation. There was some police investigation. Xavier Worthy, also some like domestic violence suit and counter suit with his ex-wife. So like both of these guys, there are question marks. As of right now, I believe there's much more of a question mark regarding Rashee Rice, but neither of this is a good situation, of course. Travis Kelce, what is he going to be like next year? Like, does he put 1000% to preparation and wants to come out with a bang? I hope so. I would like that for him. Is it even in him? Does he want to? We'll see. But like, okay, when you just look at this, it might be great. But we also could be in a situation in which like Xavier Worthy, there is some ban, Rashee Rice, there is some ban, Travis Kelce is just not Travis Kelce anymore. Isaiah Pacheco, after injury last year, when he came back, he did not look great. And then you are like, okay, what are we doing here? So it's looking deceptively good, but there is definitely a world in which Patrick Mahomes is like, let's just run with it. So we'll see. Definitely an interesting situation for them to figure out in this offseason. And I feel like regarding Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy and their like off-field issues, I think by how much they spent in terms of drafting a wide receiver will tell you like a huge chunk of that story that we, as of right now, I don't think have a clearance of what potential punishments or like if anything actually happens to these guys. Like again, I'm not like involved in the cases to like saying they did something bad, they didn't. I'm just saying there are reports, and you need to consider that if you are a GM. In terms of backups, they brought Gardner Minshew here, just like a solid backup. Like you obviously hope that Patrick plays all games. If he's out for more than one game, you are in huge trouble. Gardner Minshew is like a guy that I actually like as a backup because you can win games with Gardner Minshew. He has, if he's on the roll, he can win you games. In terms of backups for this offensive line, Mark Kelly and Devania Morris, I'm like, yeah, I don't think, even like signing Jalen Moore, I don't think it stops you from drafting a tackle. It means you don't have to, but I don't think it stops you. In terms of running backs, like you have Kareem Hunt, you have Isaiah Pacheco, like you have Elijah Mitchell, they also brought, you have Carson Steele. Again, most of these guys you have for 1 year. I don't think it stops you from drafting a running back if we are absolutely honest with each other. Because again, like Kareem Hunt, like he was solid from the couch, but you know how much he has left in the tank. And Isaiah Pacheco after injury, and already like he was always playing with this reckless abundance about his body, like perhaps his body just gave up on him. So we will see. Again, like it's looking deceptively good, this running back situation, but I would not put it past Chiefs to actually draft running back much higher than we expect. In terms of defense, so we talked about linebackers. They have one of the best linebackers trio in the game. Drew Tranquil, Nick Bolton, Leo Chanel. Yeah, that absolutely works. You just hope to see them pretty much on the field, like in the trio, kind of all the time. Again, sorry for Nick Bolton as a wide receiver. Perhaps they sign him to play there because they know Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy might have some punishments. Although, I mean, yeah, probably Nick Bolton would not be a great wide receiver though. Well, who knows? Okay, let's come back to seriousness. So George Karlaftis, I feel like he definitely developed into very, very nice like two that you can have as your number one edge when you have Chris Jones. So definitely works for them. But what doesn't work for them is they don't necessarily have a great tackle next to Chris Jones. As of right now, they are slating to start Jerry Tillery. Again, I'm talking about it with Dexter Lawrence, with Quinnen Williams. Like, I want good players next to these guys, not bunch of 3s and 4s. I want guys that can feed off the space that these guys will create for them. Because I feel like you are leaving so much meat on the bone by not doing so. So definitely would be something I would address. When I talk about why Christian Fulton signing was kind of surprising to me, like you have Jamari Conner, you have Jalen Watson, cheap guys, young guys that you want to play. So Christian Fulton, like I think he's starting, but is he starting over Jalen Watson? What does it mean for Jalen? I like Christian Fulton. I think he probably is a starter. And you obviously have Trent McDuffie, who is just freaking awesome. And the fact that he doesn't have a Pro Bowl to his name is just it just sucks, man. It's just so wrong. Okay, with that out of my system. So you have 4 corners that, could start for pretty much anyone in the league. Not anyone, but for a lot of teams. But in terms of your safeties, I feel like this could be definitely a spot that you target in terms of draft, because I don't think Jaden Hicks nor Brian Cook necessarily stops you from drafting. I mean, Jaden Hicks, they drafted him last year, so I feel like you are much more looking for a replacement for Brian Cook, which also makes sense when you compare their performance last year. So definitely one more spot to target in terms of a draft. In terms of backups, they also have Joshua Williams. That's where despite me liking Christian Fulton, this is a little bit mind-boggling, because they've invested $25 million a year, Christian Fulton and Nick Bolton, towards 2 spots on the roster that I don't feel like needed it. And then they invested $15 million a year into the spot that needs it, but to a player that was a backup for San Fran. So little bit worried. In terms of backup for this defensive line, you have Felix and Dike Uzoma, whom they invested first round 2 years ago. You also have kind of a veteran in Mike Dana. So it's much more looking at that interior where who is Mike Pennell, Marlon Tuipulotu. Yeah, they are drafting defensive tackle, trust me. And safety, I believe so. So with that being said, let's watch the draft as what I did for them. Well, I was kind of inactive in terms of trade. The only trade I made was to just be clear that I get Josh Connolly, because Josh Connolly to me is a draft prospect that has really good upside, and without the injury, he would be considered top 10, top 15. And I feel like drafting him here makes a ton of sense, because I don't necessarily need him to play year 1. So he can recover fully. And then, whether it's cutting Jamar Taylor, whether it's cutting Jalen Moore, I can insert him year 2. And if he's healthy and those guys suck as they could, well, let's just play him immediately. So I feel like that was kind of a clear choice for me, despite the investments. And in the rest of the draft, I was looking what are the biggest needs. And to me, the biggest need that was left was defensive line. So Shemar Turner just absolutely makes sense. They would still need, in my eyes, to bring some mass for that interior, because Shemar does not necessarily fulfill that role. But when you have Chris Jones, I think Shemar could feast from him. Mason Taylor, to me, is one of the tight ends that could be Travis Kelce light in the future. As of right now, we could get 60% of Travis Kelce. He could, he is very interesting tight end. Some of people that I actually watched their notes, they have him as almost a first rounder, that they would not be surprised to see him go around 30, which to me that's rich. But I would not be surprised to see him around 50, 60. And he is very athletic, and could be your middle of the field weapon, where if you are trying to go deep with Xavier Worthy, with Marquise Brown, a guy that can orient very well in this linebacker space. You hope that's Travis Kelce, but again, we don't know how good Travis Kelce is going to be in next year. Mason Taylor could be that for you. Obviously not probably over Travis Kelce, but for years to come, I'm thinking about that as well. And with Damian Martinez, I'm saying, when there was a chance to draft a guy that I feel was of value at this point, I was going to. He gives them really big, strong running back that's also very, very athletic for his size. So something that they could be looking for, whether it's over Kareem Hunt eventually, or it could be just their feature back to go. And with losing my 4th round, then it was I didn't draft for 131 spots. And with that being said, I was just kind of going for guys that I thought was the best fit, or the best values left on the board. So with that being said, the AFC is done. I hope you enjoyed the series. If you did, follow me, watch me, give me likes. It's very much appreciated. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think, especially about the Chargers Crazy Draft, and see you with the next one. Bye bye.